and good afternoon, everyone. My name is meteorologist Heather Kane. It's time for our daily hail forecast, sponsored by See-Through Group, Merlin Law Group, and American Contractor Show. Thank you guys, as always, for sponsoring our videos. So let's get right into our weather headlines. We do have almost some of the same areas compared to yesterday. They do have the chance to see some more severe weather, so we'll talk about exactly what areas are under the gun to see that severe weather in just a moment. And then as we go into tomorrow, that risk will shift to the east, and so we'll talk about that. And then lastly, we will take a look at the end of the week to see if there are any risks that we need to watch. But before we get into the hail forecast, we do have a few events coming up. The first one is on June 8th down in Grapevine, Texas. This is the NTRCA Not So Many trade show at the Grapevine Convention Center. So make sure you sign up for that. That is just a week away. And then getting into our next event, this is on June 23rd. So this is still about 3 weeks away. This is the Lunch and Learn event. So make sure you check up on that. This is also in Grapevine, it looks like. So make sure you check that out. And then lastly, we have the Florida Roofing and Sheet Metal Expo down in Daytona Beach, Florida from the 19th to the 22nd in Florida. So the more information can be found at www.floridaroof.com. So here is a map of yesterday's storm reports. It was a pretty active day in the middle of the country. We had a ton of hail and a few wind reports here in the Wichita area, as well as western Oklahoma and into the panhandle of Texas, and a few scattered reports as well here in Missouri, as well as up into Michigan. And then going down into Florida, we had a few scattered severe reports as well. And speaking of that activity that happened in the Wichita area, we did make a 4-star map for Wichita, Hesston, and El Dorado, Kansas yesterday. So make sure you go check that out. If you are subscribed, you should already have access to this map. If you do not, make sure you give us a call and we will get you set up. But this had the maximum hail size up to 2.75, so that's baseball size hail. And the amount of homes impacted, so this is quarter size hail or larger, was almost at 45,000. So not too shabby. So make sure you go check that out if you haven't already. So here are current conditions across the U.S. We still have that trailing front here. It's taking its jolly old time making its way off to the east-southeast. We're going to check in on the northeast first. We do have some scattered showers and even some thunderstorms here from New York eastward into New Hampshire and Vermont. And then we have some more scattered showers here across the lower Great Lakes region. I know we also had some severe weather just roll through Detroit. No hail, looks like just some gusty winds there. And then we have some more activity in the southern plains right here in Oklahoma City. We started the forecast in just a few moments ago, and we are hearing some thunder outside, which makes sense because we have storms moving on through. Nothing severe though at the moment here in the southern plains, but that could change as we get through it this afternoon, evening. Just to zoom on in here, this line was actually pretty nasty about an hour or two ago, and you can see it kind of started to fizzle out as it moved into the Oklahoma City area. So just some loud thunderstorms, some very heavy rain. So make sure if you're in our area here that you take caution if you have to go out and drive, because yeah, rain here in this state and the roads, they sometimes don't get along very well. So here are current temperatures across the U.S. You can see where that front is. It's really warm ahead of it. It's 85 in Atlanta, 89 in Miami. You get behind that front though, it's 68 in Kansas City, and really chilly as you're waking up in Denver. It's only 45 right now. So we had the clashing of those two air masses in terms of hot and cold, and we also, you can see the clashing in terms of the really warm, humid air and the really dry air behind that front. We have a current dew point of 71 in Dallas and 55 in Wichita. You get behind that system, only a 40-degree dew point there in Denver. So we have a lot of that heat and the humidity, and we also have a ton of instability. This is our forecast cape, so let's take a look what's going to happen for the rest of the day today. You can see a lot of instabilities in place, especially as you go south of Oklahoma City, where the atmosphere hasn't been messed up by all of this rain. As we get into the rest of the afternoon, you can see here in Oklahoma City we still have some instability, but not as much as further south, Dallas and Houston, for example, eastward into Arkansas. And then as we get into later on in the evening, you can see it starts to drop off a little bit, but that instability is still pretty prominent there in Texas, and up into the northeast we still have some as well. So we do have all that fuel there for thunderstorms to develop. And as we get into later on into tonight, you can see it starts to drop off a little bit once again, but still not bad for Dallas. And you'll see why I keep mentioning Dallas in just a second. But yeah, you go into the overnight hours and still some instabilities there in Dallas as we wake up tomorrow morning. This is at 7 a.m. As we wake up for our Thursday. So I'll get into more details in just a second. But here is our future radar. This is the HRRR model. You guys know how it rolls. This is just one particular model, one particular run of this model. So this is at 12:30, so just a few moments from now. You can see this rain is moving on through central Oklahoma as well as into parts of Kansas. That's going to continue to move on to the east. And then as we get to 4 p.m. Central Time, you can see some more thunderstorm development along and ahead of that cold front will be popping up. And then even more will be forming as we get into the evening. Lubbock, you can see some more isolated storm development in your neck of the woods. We got to watch you guys for some larger hail this evening. And then as we get into later on in the evening and getting into the overnight, you can see some more storms will be forming along and ahead of this front. And then same deal, we get, this is at 2 a.m., some more strong to possibly severe storms. It looks like since this is a line, it's going to be more of a wind threat. I think in terms of hail today for Oklahoma City, if it does happen, it's going to be on the marginally severe side. We'll get into more details in just a second, but I was just mentioning DFW a few times. You can see as we get to near daybreak tomorrow, that activity will be knocking on your door since the atmosphere won't be as disturbed as it is here in Oklahoma City. We got to watch you guys pretty carefully as we get near daybreak tomorrow, as we could see some hail moving in. It really just depends what the atmosphere does as we get into this evening and into overnight hours, like how much instability will be left over. So it's kind of still up in the air of how big the hail will get, if we can get some isolated storms in there, but that chance is still there. So let's move on to the northeastern part of this risk now. We did have some activity move on through the Detroit area. Again, just wind and no hail with that. But as we get into the next few hours, we could see some more thunderstorm development here in New York, New Hampshire, Vermont, all the way down into parts of Pennsylvania, Ohio, down into Indiana. I think hail chances, they're going to be low. I think we're going to have a better chance for wind. As you can see, some more linear segments here. Pittsburgh, around 8 p.m. Central Time, so 9 p.m. Eastern Time, you guys can get some severe storms moving on through there. And then getting into the overnight hours, you can see that activity will continue to move on to the east. We can see Cincinnati. This is at 1 a.m. Eastern Time. You guys can get some storms as well. So it may be a bit of a loud night for you guys here in the northeast. And then as we get to near daybreak, things should wind down for you guys in terms of severe weather at least. So let's take a look at our hail forecast for today. You can see it's a pretty large area. This is sponsored by C3 Group. Thank you guys as always for sponsoring. We're going to go to the southern part of this risk first, where the chance of hail is a bit better. I think Lubbock, you guys have the best chance for today, as well as along the Red River Valley south of Oklahoma City. Here in Oklahoma City itself, like I mentioned, we could see up to $1.25 size hail, but our atmosphere has already been compromised a bit with all this rain, so we have to see what the storms that happen later on this evening into the overnight do. But I'm not going to rule out, a quarter or two if we can get at least some recovery, but we shall see. But then Fort Smith, you guys have a chance to see up to golf ball size hail, as well as the atmosphere hasn't been compromised there yet. And then getting into the rest of the risk here, we do have a low chance to see some $1.25 size hail from maybe as far north as Indianapolis to Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, all the way to Albany, New York. Again, I think we have a better chance for wind in this area, but we cannot rule out some marginally severe hail in these areas. And speaking of wind, same areas basically we'll be watching for 60 to 70 mile per hour winds from Lubbock to here in Oklahoma City, maybe as far north as Amarillo, Fort Smith, Arkansas, and then getting up into the northeast here from Indianapolis, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, and then to Albany, New York. So it's going to be a pretty wide area that we're going to be watching for today. Now getting into tomorrow, this is at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. You can see Dallas, you'll be getting in on some potentially severe weather. We got to watch you guys, because your atmosphere is not going to be, disturbed as much from all of, the rain that's been going on. So if you're in Dallas, cross your fingers. We may have a storm moving on through early in the morning. It depends, you guys. We got to watch what today does very carefully. But as we get into the rest of the morning, that activity will move on to the east. Shreveport, you can see some storms as well between like 9 and noon Central Time tomorrow. You can see some isolated cells as well here in Mississippi, southeastern Arkansas, getting up into western Tennessee and then into Kentucky, and then getting into the rest of the afternoon. You can see some more activity here along and ahead of that cold front in Jackson. You can see some storms as well, and then getting into Birmingham, Alabama, and then that will be moving on to the east as well. You can see just these little isolated cells here, so those can give us a chance for some marginally severe hail. That cold front is really starting to lose its oomph, and you can see some potential. The models with this has been some are seeing this, some aren't. So we have to see what happens with this, but we could see some more storms moving into the panhandle of Texas as we wake up Friday morning. And then getting into the northeast with this cold front, and I should have moved it further south, but some more storms are possible as we get into tomorrow morning and into the rest of the day tomorrow. I think, again, it's going to be more of a wind risk than anything. The hail should be pretty marginal. So let's get into tomorrow's hail forecast. Again, it's going to be, I think, pretty marginal. And we're going to go to this area first. It's a very small area, like we just saw a few moments ago. Some models are saying this, some aren't. But there is a chance of hail here in parts of New Mexico and maybe as far west as El Paso. Up to $0.5 size hail is possible there. And then getting along and ahead of that cold front, slowly going on to the northeast, Shreveport, Jackson, Birmingham, northward to maybe Nashville, and then moving on to the east to Charleston and Baltimore and Richmond. You guys have a chance to see up to $0.5 size hail for any storms that say isolated. And I do think anyway that this storm coverage will be pretty isolated to widely scattered tomorrow anyway, but yeah, those chances are there. And then same deal with the wind. We have that risk here in parts of New Mexico, maybe including El Paso. I think the chances are going to be pretty low for you guys, though, as it should stay to the east and be in relatively rural areas. And then once again, those same areas that we saw for the hail for tomorrow, we're going to see wind, Shreveport, Jackson, Birmingham, up to Nashville, and then I think a better chance for wind here in Charleston, West Virginia, to Baltimore to Richmond. So it could be a busy next few days. It is that time of the year. But is there anything after that? Let's check out the jet stream. So here is our trough that's producing that severe weather right now. It's going to continue to slowly make its way to the east. So this is tomorrow at noon. You can see it gets into the northeast here. And then we have another disturbance behind that one in the Pacific Northwest, and that'll be moving on to the east as we get Thursday and into Friday. And you can see this dip here just to the west of Denver, and I'll get to that in just a second. This is at Friday at noon, and that one will be moving into the Central Plains by Saturday afternoon, and then into the eastern part of the U.S. as we get into Sunday. And then we start to flatten out a bit. So we got to see, if we can get some quietness for a few days after that or not. Probably not, because we have this next trough moving on through. But I did mention the word Denver. We're still a few days out, so we got to see what happens. But we do have a risk along the Rockies from Denver to Pueblo down south into eastern New Mexico and into the Panhandle of Texas. So that's what that next trough coming on through after the one that we're dealing with right now. And then we also, on Friday still, we will have the remnants of that cold front bringing the chance for severe weather for the eastern coast of the Carolinas down into southeastern Georgia. So besides that, I think that I have nothing else for you today. I forgot to mention today is June 1st, so it is officially hurricane season, so we have to keep an eye on things as we go forward, because it is that time of the year for that as well. But in the meantime, check us out on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, as well as TikTok. We've been trying to get more active on there, making some fun videos about storm chasing, what we do in the office, and all that jazz. So make sure that you follow us there as well. And if you have any questions, concerns, if you just want to say hi, you can give us a call at 855-334-4245. You can email us at info@hailtrace.com and check out our website at www.hailtrace.com. And I am meteorologist Heather Kay. I hope you all have a great rest of your Wednesday.